Alert. Soros caught in $7 billion IRS scandal. Far left billionaire George Soros is a big fan of high taxes for all Americans and Europeans. And surprisingly, Mr. Soros is not too keen about paying high taxes himself though. According to Fox News, Mr. Soros has been using a loophole that was closed in the US in 2008 in order to avoid paying some taxes. Soros used this closed loophole to defer taxes on client fees. He used the illicit money to invest in his tax-free fund. If found guilty of these improprieties, Soros could face an IRS bill worth $7 billion. The money that Soros made from abusing this loophole apparently amounted to $13.3 billion. More galling is the fact that Soros' illicit money was kept in accounts stationed in Ireland. Amazingly, all of this news about Mr. Soros' tax avoidance originally came to light in 2015. Since then, alternative media sources have found no evidence that Soros has paid his debts. To put this debt in perspective, Forbes estimates that President Trump is worth $4.5 billion. That means that Soros' tax bill would be nearly $3 billion more than the American president's overall net worth. This is far from the first time that Soros' fortune has been used on dirty tricks. In Ukraine, Mr. Soros' Open Society Foundation and other organizations conspired with the US government to fund pro-EU protests that toppled a pro-Russian government that had been democratically elected, although there were voting irregularities. A large chunk of this money wound up in the hands of far-right organizations like Ukrainian National Assembly, Congress of Ukrainian Nationalists, and Right Sector. Ironically, Mr. Soros and his supporters are quick to label any nationalist movement in the United States as neo-Nazi. It should also be noted that Soros escaped the Holocaust in his native Hungary by posing as a Christian and actively helping the Nazis to persecute his fellow Jews. He said in an interview with 60 Minutes that he does not regret his actions. Soros' investment in Ukraine led to a war with Russian separatists and the Russian government, and a government so desperate for money that it now has to rely on its enemy Russia for fuel. Stateside, Mr. Soros' money has been funneled to extremist groups like Black Lives Matter and others who seek to create chaos on America's streets. Black Lives Matter alone has received about $100 million from Soros-linked organizations. The overall story of George Soros is an example of why President Donald Trump's base rejects globalism. Soros is a native of Hungary who made his fortune in the United Kingdom, and yet he feels confident enough to tell Americans how their political house must be ordered. At the same time, Soros abuses US tax laws and regulations and funnels his money into offshore accounts into tax-friendly nations. Mr. Soros and his ilk abuse patriots because they themselves are not patriotic, as can be seen by his refusal to pay a hefty tax bill to the American government. Mr. Soros cares only about himself and his bottom line. This is the face of the globalist left.